Hi, I'm Matty O'Boyle with RealEar.com and welcome to the screencast. In this screencast, we're going to see a super cool ear training tool, and that's the Microtones ear training web app. So the Microtones ear training web app, its foundation is our first web app, which was the Melody ear training web app, which is awesome. But we've added some different functionality to the Melody ear training web app. So let's jump in. Melody ear training web app is based on the notes on a piano. Okay, so how does a piano work? Just briefly, you have an octave, and then you divide it up into 12 notes that are they're equidistant. They have the same distance between C and C sharp as C sharp and D. In other words, that the change in pitch between C and C sharp is the same as between C sharp and D, D sharp, D and D sharp, etc., etc., etc. However, many types of music around the world today and historically use notes that fall in between the cracks of the notes on the piano. And up to now, musicians have never really had a way to do call and response ear training with those notes that fall in the cracks, in between the cracks, or in the cracks between the notes on the piano. And those notes we commonly refer to now as microtones. So let's get into it. Imagine that I want to practice C and C sharp, but I also want to practice a note halfway between C and C sharp. How can I do that? Well, with the Microtones ear training web app, you can. When you have a plus here, you can press on the plus and open a drop down of microtones. By default, that drop down is set at 3. So if I open this, I will get 3 possible microtones that I can then adjust any way I want to. Okay. If I don't want it anymore, I just hit the minus sign and it goes away. So let's go back to my example. I want to practice C and C sharp, but I also want to practice the note halfway between C and C sharp. So I just want one microtone, and I open that up, and by default it's at 50, which would be halfway between the two, because the distance between these two notes in microtones would be 100. So 50 is halfway between them. And of course, just like anything, we want you to be able to adjust it exactly towards your needs so you can. Okay, so that just gives you a brief idea of how you can just sit down, open the app, and decide to work on something very specific in your music that you're working on and can easily program it. Let me take that a step further. We're going to leave that 50% there, but imagine I also want to hear that along with not a C, but maybe two different versions of, not a C sharp, but maybe two different versions of a note that's between C sharp and D. Okay, well, that's no problem. I said two different, so I want 2 microtones, and I can open that up here, and again, I can adjust this any way that I need to. So you can see how you can program this to get exactly what you need. All right, let me take off that C there. And now let's actually hear this dictation. So this dictation is going to consist of 4 notes played in rhythm, in time, and we don't know what they're going to be. They're going to be randomly selected, but from your choices. They'll be confined to these 4 choices. And then you just simply sing back or play back what you hear. Let's do it. Your turn. Turn up the volume. Your turn. Okay, you get the idea. It's just call and response dictations. You listen, you focus your attention, you perceive the difference in the notes, and then you sing back or play back what you hear. And that's the fast track to get really good at playing music and being a musician. Now, that's one way to use the app. Another way to use the app is to open the presets. Okay, so we have about 50 presets here to help people get started. The first 2 groups of presets are, well, you see that there's equal temperament and just intonation. So they're basically intonation presets. presets. Equal temperament is default. That's dividing the scale into 12 equal parts, but there's other ways to do that. You could do it into 19 or 22, and there's even more equal temperament options that people have experimented with. And then just intonation. Then when we get out of that section, we kind of get into another group of scales that we've organized by continent. So we have Asia and different scales from all around Asia. And then Europe, and these are actually all bagpipe tunings from around Europe. But as we'll see later on, there are more scales of European origin at the bottom of the presets. Then we go to Middle East, we go to Africa, a little bit from North America, just some microtonal work for blues musicians. Then we have the harmonic series, both 6 through 12 and 8 through 16. And then finally, like I said, we have more scales from the European tradition. And these are historical scales from the European tradition. So all these are presets. So what you can do is you can either just grab a preset. Let's get the Japanese koto scale. Why not? And you can do a dictation. Then you'd repeat what you hear in time. Okay? Quick piece of advice when you're getting into microtones, sometimes it's good to have that first note. You know what the first note is to give yourself a melodic reference, an anchor point. So I would suggest when you're first getting into this, at least use the first pitch to sound and make it the lowest note. That way the first note you're going to hear is this note, and then the rest of the notes will be random. That's your turn. Okay, that's it. You get the idea. And finally, of course, you can take one of these presets and you can modify it. So for example, maybe you just want to work on the first couple notes of that. Or you want to work on that, but you also maybe want to add your own microtone here. So whatever you want to do, you can do with this app to get exactly what you need to work on when you need to work on it. And since the app is drawing from your selection of choices, it's always going to be exactly what you need. But because the dictations have a random element in it, you never know what you're going to hear. So you always have to be actively listening. And it's going to help you explore all the different possibilities within your choices on your instrument without falling into like little ruts, as sometimes happens in a practice routine. So this is the big one. This is just absolutely awesome for anyone who plays any kind of melody instrument, as well as all singers. I encourage you, if you are not already a member of Realear.com, to grab the 15-day free trial and try this out and see how it can help you accelerate your music learning journey to reach your goals.